Hello, welcome to our workshops on the Bach cello suites. I'm Jean-Guihen Queyras. This is IDAGIO Live, and our feature today will be the Allemande from the Sixth Suite, and our guest will be my dear friend and amazing musician Riccardo Minasi, conductor, violinist, and probably much more. He will tell us in about 15 minutes when he's with us. Before we get going in our Allemande, I have a little wish to express here. As it happens, it's going to be my birthday next week. Now, I'm not saying this because I want you to send me either wishes or gifts, but there is this nice thing now on the social network that enables to propose that people give to a cause on the occasion of the birthday. And this is what I would like to do this year. And so I am an ambassador of a wonderful organization, an association that is called Audition Solidarité. It's a French association, but that goes around the world to help with, to help with any issue that has to do with audition, with hearing. So helping handicapped children or adults who have hearing problems, but also working a lot on prevention everywhere in France, but in many countries. They go in also in conservatories or things like this to alert, to say, be careful, this is how an ear works, and this is something you will need all your life. So they sort of give us tools on how to deal with it and not to damage it on the long term. Also for professional musicians, by the way. They have been going to orchestras and things like this. So, and this is a wonderful association, and I will put tonight the links on my social network and on my website so that you will be able, if you wish, to give to this association something on the occasion of my birthday. Thank you very much in advance. Now, back to our topic. After this very dynamic prelude, full of life, full of energy, with this ternary rhythm that we talked about last week, Bach is giving us a wonderful moment of peace, I would say. And he does this with an Allemande, which is quite a slow Allemande. As a matter of fact, if you remember, Chris Bezuidenhout was our guest for the Allemande of the Fifth Suite, and he said that for him, both the Allemande of the Fifth and of the Sixth Suite are clearly grave Allemandes, so Allemandes that need to have a lot of time to deploy, and that they should in no way be too much dancing in a way. With this Allemande, I would say it's even more extreme than with the Allemande from the Fifth Suite, because we have so much ornamentation, a lot of basically of small notes, of fast notes, 32nd notes, 64th notes. I won't try to say that in English, demi semiquaver or semi-demi semiquaver. I'll do something wrong. Anyways, the point is that my pulse, we are here in 4, but this pulse in 4 beats is going to be necessarily very slow. I know that's going to be a topic we are going to talk about with Riccardo later, because he might have, another opinion on this, and I look forward to hearing that. But for now, let me play a little bit the beginning and show you how I try to find a pulse that is both flowing and yet never give us a feeling of stress. So a sort of balance between a very large pulse and a lot of ornamentation that should never be stressed. so on. I will stop here for now. So our pulse in the tempo in which I play it is this: 1, 2, 3, 4. So it might be, I'm sure it is possible to play it more flowing, but let's say you want to play it about in a similar tempo to which I played. Obviously, to feel, you know, I've been insisting on all these past episodes how we have to find, even if this music is not, the purpose of this music is not to make people dance, we have to have in us the feeling, the physical feeling of a pulse that can be danced. And this pulse, 1, 2, 3, 4, is hardly something that we can physically relate to. It's already on the verge of being close to abstraction. Now, I think, and also on this point, I will ask Riccardo how he sees that. But I think there is no contradiction between, because when the pulse is so slow, between feeling a sort of a subdivision, I dare to say, in this case for me 16th note, but 16th notes that are not constringent, that will not give something square, but to have a flow inside me. So when I start playing this piece, I do in myself try to feel this. So to have something very calm that just flows. Now, again, I insist on the fact that these 16th notes are in no way, they may have, they may give any constraint to the smaller value. I will not going to play in time with this 16th note. It's just to have something between the beats. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. That is something I can relate to physically, physiologically. I hope you see my point here, that I don't think we can, if I, before playing, I'd only think quarter notes, 3, 4. I'm not going to be able to really rely on this extremely large pulse. This is an issue that I find absolutely fascinating because we definitely don't want this music to be musically subdivided, but we want to have these little values as an inside flow. I hope you get my point. So the first thing I want to little now technical details. As I said, in the sixth suite we have to deal a lot with the fact that we are missing one string here. And so what solutions do we find? The first chord here is now I chose to decide, I decided to play my chord like this, simply because on the 5-string cello it will be open strings, and also because I'm anyway not going to stay for with this with the middle voice for very long. This is what Anno Bellsma taught us. Don't stay for ages on the middle voice, because what's more important is actually obviously my bass line. Please bear with me. I have a little technical issue here because I just received a call. So I hope this will not happen again. I'm sorry about the interruption. So in order to have the D, the bass line, ring for longer, then I don't know if you hear it through the technical, through Zoom, but the D is still ringing for a while. So which is nice because then it stays until I play the E. So I want to make one last point about the pulse and about the timing. Once I have secured that this and then in the second bar, that this comes in a way that flows, that is calm and that is absolutely clear, then I will be very free to play my small values, the ornamentations within this. By the way, here make sure that the trill, for example, doesn't slow you down. And yeah. One last thing before we go on, I want to talk about again about fingerings. Please, if you are not a cellist, bear with us. I want to mention, because I have this issue with my student quite often, I decide to stay in position because for these ornamentation notes, I think what's very important, if you can stay in position, because that way you will have more flow. And anyway, if you had the 5-string cello, it would be in the same position. You wouldn't have to go up and down the string, which is in this case counterproductive, I think. And you will see as I go along the piece that I use this a lot. Now let me go on from here. We are only bar 3, by the way. So after opening to a new register, you know, the beautiful register up there, Bach answers with the lower voice. The reason I mention this is that for you as a player, it's important to know this and to really rejoice at having a different type of production of the sound when you are in your soprano and when you are and that way you have third dimension, you have really different characters depending on the register. Let's go on. Again here, fingering on 2-string. Now I wanted to play a little bit a longer beat before talking, just to give a sense of how the phrases are constructed. If you notice from here, one thing that is important to know after this, here you have a beautiful sequence, a circle of fifths starting in the bass. Here a virtual B that is not played, but again an A that is not played, but that is there. Now, why do I insist on this? Because remember, when you have this this sequence, this circle of fifth, there is a sort of, it's like, I don't know, it's like walking, you know, left, right, left, right, left, right. That means what? That means flow. That means that that in this passage, even more than for the rest of the piece, your absolute priority will be that this line makes sense musically, that it flows in a way that makes sense, that you don't let all your ornamentations, your small notes determine the timing. They will fit into this bass line. Now, that's the first point. The second point is that once you enjoyed this, that we had this balancing and this circle of fifth, then what comes here is becomes even more of a beautiful improvisation, if you want. It's the moment for sure where the bass line says, okay, now dear soprano, dear ornaments, it's your turn here, you are free. And that means for us players, make sure that you don't insist on the beats in this passage, because it's not, we don't have anymore a bass that moves, but that it's one large motion, and then again we come back into grooving, if you would like, into a bass that shows the way, cadence. And now this last bar, such a beautiful ornamentation. All of this last bar, and the bars are big in this Allemande, is only the aftermath of what you played. That means let it sort of just unfold. Let us feel that now it's just we finished our cadenza, and it's just the bass is not anymore making any fuss. It's just we are just there on this chord, and we just ornament. The second half starts again with chords that go in a way in alla breve, if I may say so, half bars. To D major, to our key, and now a sort of defining moment in the piece where with this C, the lowest note on the cello, where Bach puts everything into question. Now it could stop there and we make just a sort of modulation to G, which seems to be the case at first, and then again in this G chord the bass makes a little improvisation, but then comes something so unexpected that it sort of puts in question everything we have done so far. So, and the genius here is that Bach starts this whole passage, existential passage, by this C, but then we realize, okay, we are anyway deep down there, but this actually we have to octaviate because we cannot go further down, but actually our bass line keeps going down to this very see, that's it. I'm very happy just what happened to me, because it could have been this, and then we would be in B minor, which is a key that he used a lot. There was a big chunk of B minor in the prelude, and here he decides differently. Now, where is he going to go? He could go in many different keys in many different ways. He decides to go to F sharp minor. And then here we have a cadenza in F sharp minor before going somewhere else. He wants to stay longer in this world of F sharp minor, and in order to do this, he will again surprise us with the Napolitan in F sharp minor. So that the actual cadenza in F sharp minor is only now. Now that was quite, I find, very singing, very lyrical, quite emotional, but he wants to go even further from there, which is one of the most beautiful moments for me in this Allemande, so touching. And this is really spoken music. I find so beautiful when Bach really tells us now this is a cantata. This is not anymore instrumental music, because when you repeat the same motif like this, it is about speaking, because it's not anymore the harmony is already clear, but you're little passage through E minor. So he gave us a long phrase to make us recover, so to say, from this very particular passage at the beginning of the second half. And now we are again, like in the first part, sort of improvisation on the bass note. And now we are going to have our cadenza. Well, if I had to choose very few movements, I couldn't choose just one movement in all 6 suites. But if I had to choose, if I had to make a choice, a few favorite movements, this would be definitely one of them. So much tenderness, so much beauty. Now, dear friends, comes the moment where we have our guest joining us. Dearest Riccardo, are you there? Can you hear us? Can you join us? Can we see you? Yes, I see you, dear Riccardo.
Hey.
Yes,
I see you as well.
Hello, dear Riccardo. It's so wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time, dear Riccardo. I'm so grateful. I want to tell our viewers a little bit how I met you. I had heard already your concerts, recordings, and everything. But we actually met where we are both as actors of the music making on a recording session when we recorded the cello concertos by the other Bach, by Carl Philipp, with the Ensemble Resonance, and we had never played together. So there was it was a bit of a of a bet, you know, that the Ensemble Resonance and Harmonia Mundi made, because they said, okay, we think these two guys should somehow meet. Let's hope it works. And I must say, this was a fantastic experience. All this recording of the Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach concertos. And I learned so much. I was so inspired. I wanted to play. That was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful moment. And one of the things, Di Riccardo, that would be my first question, actually. We will come to the tempi, but I have a first question about, in general, ornamentation in suites like this, in this kind of writing, in the cello suite. So somebody like Anna Belsma was absolutely against any extra ornamentation in the suites, and he took as a proof of his conviction, of his theory, that he said, well, when Bach wants ornamentation, he does write it, like in the Allemande of the Sixth. So this movement is obviously a super ornamented, very slow harmonic process. Does that mean we should not ornamentate in the other movements? And the reason I ask you this is that because on this recording, on the other Bach, so I'm absolutely aware it's a different music, but you encouraged me to ornamentate, to basically to illustrate through ornamentation what happens harmonically in the music. So what's your conviction about this in this music?
Well, in the CP Emanuel Bach concertos, of course, the situation is completely different than in that piece that you were playing wonderfully now, where, as you said, the ornaments are written down completely. But on the other side, we can also suppose that maybe in the repetition, you are not obliged to do exactly the same. Bach, in fact, in the suite, in the solo pieces, somehow is playing with the forms and with the subforms, let's say. What is this? For example, this Allemande is a trio sonata. Is a form is based on let's say on the form of maybe two violins in continuo sonata with the two violins ornamenting and exchanging phrasing between themselves or something like that. So we can suppose maybe if we take this matrice, how do you say this inspiration from where Bach was taking the form on, we can suppose that the two soloists, they would improvise something also in the repetition and something different. Why not? We can't say that for sure. We know, for example, there are a few examples of pieces by Bach that they have different ornamentation in the first and in the repetition. For example, there's a trio sonata in G major, where he's writing extensively the first and the repetition with the two different kind of ornamentations. I would say sometimes I have an impression that if that piece was composed by Telemann, we would have a big party of ornamentation. And then when we touch Johann Sebastian Bach, somehow we are in front of an icon and we don't want to, to do anything. Right. And I expect that somehow Johann Sebastian Bach had the feeling that he was expecting that people approaching his music had the same feeling approaching a piece by Telemann, I would say, or something like that.
Fantastic. I'm so happy you are talking about this as a trio sonata, you know, to help the people. We have been talking a lot about this in these workshops, about the voicing, about having different voices answering each other and everything. That's so fantastic. I have a question about the tempo. And Riccardo, please hit me now. Go at it. Don't take any gloves if you think my tempo is way too slow or way too fast. How do you see that on this Allemande?
We can't say. When I'm approaching any piece of music, first I'm trying to move out all my personal inclination and my subjective feelings, and trying to read and to trying to understand what is written down in the score, and then out from it, with the help of maybe of the sources, of the historical sources we have, I can try to build up an opinion about it. Historical sources about the tempi, we have to consider that this Allemande is in 4, is not alla breve. I think there's another one in 4. I can remember if it's the third one, right? Which is normally in the suite. I think Cello suite. I don't have the scores now with me, but I think
the third one, yes,
the
definitely.
third one is in 4. Yeah. So maybe we can take in account the tempo giusto of Jean-Guihen Queyras. He was a great flautist in the orchestra in Dresden, where Bach tried to apply it as a court composer, and where Johann Georg Pisendel was the concertmaster. And Jean-Guihen Queyras is giving as an example for the tempo giusto 80. Let me check. I have a metronome here. Wait. 80 for the quarters, for the tempo giusto, and in case of a piece like this one, for example, also we have to talk also about the sources of this Allemande, because in the manuscript by Kellner is marked molto adagio, which is something very rare in the Bach production. But the tempo of 80 is this one.
And that would be what?
That would be the 8 notes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I think it's doable.
Okay.
Not so far away from what you were playing, actually. I don't know.
Would be worth a try. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. And like that, actually, I think I'm not judging anything. Your interpretation was great, was flowing. I could understand exactly where the metric accent was, and everything was clear, the harmonies. So I have really, really nothing to say. Just if you want to be a little more, let's say, historically accurate and being a little bit more nerdy about this, that we can take into account this document, and maybe trying to have a look. I think it's doable. Yesterday I was playing a little bit on the piano. This when you invite me for this, I was looking at the score. I think it's totally possible.
Yeah.
And the only thing, of course, when you have so many notes, the risk is that those ornaments, they become hysteric. And the biggest challenge is, I think, is that the abbellimento needs to make the music more beautiful. Abbellimento has to make it more.
Abbellimento, what a beautiful word. Yeah.
Not more ugly, and somehow has to underline a concept and a message that you want to already to deliver without the ornaments. So use the ornaments as I would say, you have a beautiful eyes, you use the ornaments to add mascara on those beautiful eyes to underline what is already there. And this is the most challenging thing. So trying to find those ornaments that they have a flow, and they are lyrical, and they are calm, and they are according to the shape and the feelings you want to express in the music. Yeah.
Fantastic. I have another question, but I don't know if you have a strong opinion about this, but about adding bass notes when they are not there. So because I'll tell you, first of all, to our viewers, I didn't mention in the second bar here, in Anna Magdalena manuscript, there is on the second and the third beat, there is no bass note. There is not this B and this E that I played now. But this place in the second bar, I so much want to feel this circle of fifths, so I very often play them. Sometimes I play them in the repeat and not in the first time, or the other way around, whatever comes to my mind. But on top of that, in many suites, in the repeats, I like to add some of the not composed bass notes. Now, the thing that Anno Belsma sort of made me aware of and really insisted so much is that he said the whole point about this suite is that it's so fascinating, it's so great, it makes it so much more interesting that the bass is not there, is not played, the implied bass. But does it prevent us from sometimes in the moment, in the repeat, to add the bass note? I mean, not to add, actually, to play the bass note that is clearly implied.
Yes, of course. Well, again, I don't have a strong opinion. I'm trying to be, let's say, looking at other examples made by Bach himself. And in fact, in the arrangements he's making out from his solos, Bach is adding plenty of harmonies. If you know, for example, the organ pieces taken out from the sonatas and partitas, for example, from the fugues, or lute pieces written out from the sonatas and partitas and the cello suites, is adding full harmonies. So I don't see a reason for not adding. We have to consider also the fact that you mentioned the fact that in the Anna Magdalena manuscript, in the, where is it? In the second bar, yes, it is this passage, yes, of course, this circle of fifths. The two notes or three notes are missing, but in the Kellner manuscript are there. There's a lot of debates about the sources from where Anna Magdalena and Kellner and other two anonymous, they took out the transcription of their own versions. And so some musicologists create a stemma, and so the opinion, the most diffuse opinion is that the sources that Anna Magdalena and Karen they used were two different sources. So we can also expect that maybe Johann Sebastian Bach at a certain moment add those notes in the bass line, or was just an idea of Kellner. We'll never know that.
We'll never know that, no.
But looking at the arrangements he made, arriving even with the orchestral arrangements, think about, for example, the preludio of the partita number 3 in E major. There's a full arrangement for orchestra with the organo. It's a symphony of a cantata, with a concertante organo with trumpets, timpani, and everything else. So
yeah, right. So in the end, what Schumann did with the third suite, which he he harmonized with the piano part, it is not so crazy in the end. And anyways, as you were speaking, I was just thinking, of course, considering the lute version of the fifth suite, in which there are so many more chords, harmonies, bass lines, and everything. So it basically it answers itself.
I get to the point of Anna Bisma, of course, that let's say is playing the incredible idea about those very archaic form of the suite for, let's say, a new instrument. Why he didn't wrote those suites for viola da gamba. He had many examples of suites in the French tradition, by Forqueray, Marais, etc. And for a new instrument like the cello, and so he's playing with the influences and the contamination of forms. And so having even this illusion of a bass line that you can guess, but is not really there, is also very fascinating. Of course, Anna Bisma, he was an incredible poet. You are mentioning him because I played with him a couple of times, and I was always extremely touched by his touch, really on the point. Man full of humor and energy and joy. Yes.
So one last question, I guess, because unfortunately we're already our time is up. I get a lot of questions from viewers, and anyways, my whole life, and all cellists ask themselves about bowings in these suites. Yes, so we have the different sources, as you say. I think the one that is the reference is Anna Magdalena. I'm sure you've played all the partitas and sonatas, where you have, of course, it's different because you have the source of Johann Sebastian. How do you go with that, with the bowings? In the fact, let's forget about the Anna Magdalena factor. Now let's talk about the partitas and sonatas. You have this source. You have Johann Sebastian's manuscript. How do you deal with bowings? How do you make your choices?
But again, here we don't have any sources. I watch, I don't know how many example of material that was in use at the time. I couldn't find a single trace of a bowing, except maybe on the on the material used by John Smith. I'm not inventing. John Smith he was the assistant of Handel in Hamburg. He built up, I think, something like 15 opera production for him, and he had here and there few slurs. For example, when there are passages like tam paradararadam paradararadam, stuff like that, is always binding the first two notes, the first two tim tia taradaradam tia taradaradam, and this is a very interesting source for the time. So there are two options, I think, possible, or they were not taking care about the fact that, for example, in orchestra, if they were with the bows like that, a little bit alla Stokowski ante litteram, or so it was a big mess, or they had such of incredible criteria that they were respecting. This, I think I tend more to believe about this second option. And we have, for example, Quantz in his treatise of 1752 is writing basically what he heard from Johann Georg Pisendel, that was the concertmaster and the conductor of the orchestra there in Dresden. And he's writing that, for example, the Arte dell'Arco by Pisendel was the fact was, okay, is the discovery of the warm water. Is he was able anyway, in any case, to be in the downbeat with the down bow and in the upbeat with the up bow, whatever is gonna happen. So he was making incredible tricks in order to be always in order like that, which is a tradition that actually is documented even later, even towards the complete 19th century, till let's say Ferdinand David, Joachim, and Moser. The Moser edition of the sonatas and partitas is respecting these criteria, and avoiding absolutely retakes. And the question is, for example, talking about subforms, okay, it's a really big discussion. Just to reduce in 30 seconds of discussion, if you think about the syllabation, when you have a sort of a, let's say, syllabazione piana, we call it in Italy, like casa, banana, pianoforte, so the baba, or you have something like that. When you have the syllabation, the last syllable tronca, like virtù, caffè, Queyras, and then you have another kind of bowings that can imply also the down bow, or you have the sdrucciolo, like for a tavolo, zucchero, tampapa, when you have a dactylus like that, and that is implying that the pampapa, down, down, up, for example. They had criteria like that. They were coming from the syllabation, from the, and if you apply those, I did it in the sonatas and partitas, but it's totally doable in every single piece by Johann Sebastian Bach, then you can have some nice surprise. For example, if you think about the sarabande in the suite and the cello suites, now just to give an example among millions, quite often in the clausola, in the cadenzas, is ending up on the second quarter. So yam pam pa pam pa pa pam pam. You have no sorry, I'm singing. I don't know what, but quite often on the second beat. While the tradition of the sarabande is in the French tradition is very often the clausola, the closing notes is on the third beat. Very often it's like that. And for sure, the retakes that we see many times, I don't know if you do it actually, but I think it's incorrect.
I don't know myself.
I will give an example. Something like that. For sure, is something that I believe they were not using. So the cadential conclusion for sure was on the up bow.
Okay.
And yeah.
Wow.
So just trying to be able to read. The other problem is reading the Anna Maddalena manuscript. It's true that also she had such an incredible similarity of the calligraphy to Johann Sebastian. Yeah. It's like the photocopy. It's incredible, but she's really much less precise. Where the slur, for example, is starting or is getting out. But one criteria, for example, that is not adopted by who made the transcription so far of the editions of these 12 masterpieces is the fact that Johann Sebastian Bach is never writing the slur on the on the line of connection of notes of a value that is less of a crotchet. He's always writing the slur on the notes. If you see all the manuscript by Bach, I'm hearing so often, for example, think about the Ciaccona. There's always this 1 3 1 3 in the third bar, no?
Okay.
Which is something absolutely incorrect, because simply on the first of these 4 notes there's a chord, and there's basically just not the space to write the slur that is including the 4 notes. So Bach is writing a slur that is including only 3 notes, but it is intended to be read as 4 notes in total. Slurred.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
or even more correct, first beat.
Wow. Okay.
It is something that you should adopt. Also, reading Anna Magdalena, that sometimes has this slurred.
Yeah. Fantastic. Look, I could listen to you for hours. I'm so happy you brought this language thing, that it all derives from the language and whichever whichever we choose. But yeah, Noam Chomsky would have been very happy to hear this. to hear this. Maybe he is. Okay. Thank you so much, dear Riccardo, for your time and for all of this. And thank you, everybody. I am not sure whether I see you next week or the week after, because I might be busy next week. But anyways, I will post on the social media, and we will talk for sure next time about the courant from the 6th beat. Thank you. Bye bye.